Hi folks, this is Meredith from the Papery Craftery, and today I'm going to be grabbing my quilling comb again, and I'm going to be making 3 different leaves on my quilling comb. Mine is the onion holder type of comb, but these techniques will work on whatever quilling comb you have. I have 3 different greens here that I'm going to be using for my 3 different leaves. I also have a needle tool here. I like to start off on my quilling comb by making a little round on my needle tool. I just have Elmer's glue in a needle nose bottle. And then I'm also going to be using my crimper for one of my leaves. So we're going to have that handy. And then there are some times where we're going to need to build our leaves on a stem. So I have a piece of corkboard here covered in parchment paper and some pins to keep everything together. Our first leaf is going to be made with this color called lime green. It's from Quilled Creations, and it's about 18 inches long and 1/8 inch wide. We don't need the entire strip for this leaf, but we're just going to have it just to start. I roll a couple of rounds on my needle tool and then take it off, and that's just to give what I call an anchor, just a place to start with on our quilling comb. It makes it easier to have something a little sturdier on there to start with. I throw that right in the middle and put my tail in the back, and then it's just a matter of wrapping up and over one extra tooth on each side each turn. So I added one tooth top and bottom with my strip, pulled it back to the back, and then there is another top and bottom, and there is a third top and bottom. So I have my one I started in the center with, and I added one on either side each time. And at that point I have my center and 3 on either sides. I'm going to flip it over and I'm going to pull off the excess off the back. Then just glue that tail down, keep everything together. And it's just a matter of making loops on your quilling comb. Could not be simpler. Once that gets glued down, you can pull it right off of your tool. It's going to change shape slightly. That's what it should look like. It's not going to open up a ton, but it will get a little bit crooked on you, and that is perfectly fine. We're going to need 3 of these for each leaf. Once you have your 3, what we're going to do is stack them on top of each other. So these should all be exactly the same size, so it doesn't matter which order you stack them. Add a little bit of glue to the side of one. Put your second one on top, and it's not going to stick right away, and that's okay. Add a little bit more glue to the second one, and top it with the third. And this gets a little bit tricky because, like I said, they're not going to be completely stuck together just yet, but it does go pretty quickly. We're going to pinch both sides. So we're making sort of a marquee shape, but with 3 sections made on a quilling comb. Now you're going to let that dry, and we're going to use that paper crimper I mentioned earlier. This one I really like because it has 6 different sizes that it crimps your paper. I'm going to be making my paper run through the second smallest, which is pretty fine. I'll link to this in the description box for the video because I really like this tool. It's very handy to have all these different sizes in one tool. I ran an entire 18-inch strip through. And what I'm going to do at this point is wrap it around that shape that I made just a second ago. To get it to stick, I'm just going to run a thin line of glue down one side, and being careful not to smush down my crimp too much. I'm just going to lay it across there. And again, it does take a second to get this to set. If you want to use tacky glue, it'll definitely make it go faster, but I just wanted a very small amount of glue, so I just went with the Elmer's. Once I get the one side done, I'm going to flip it over, run a little bit more glue down the other side, and just continue wrapping. I did find it was helpful to pinch the corner again. It doesn't really lose too much of your crimp. What it does lose isn't really super noticeable because it's on that peak there. And then I'm going to run it around a second time, this time without glue. And then when I get to the end of the second time, I could try to tear it, but that does tend to lose a little bit of the crimp. So normally we don't cut quilling paper as we're using it, but for this intents and purposes, it actually works out a little bit better just to snip off whatever is too much for this after the end of the second pass. Add a bit of glue, and then we're going to get that to stick right there. And that is going to be the end of our first little leaf on our quilling comb with a little bit of crimping paper accent to the edge, a little frilly edge. At this point, what you can do is just use that by itself, or you can put this leaf on a stem. And here I have a double thick strip. I'm not going to go over this again because I feel like I do it in almost every video at this point, but I will definitely link down below to my on-edge quilling video, which gives lots and lots and lots of detail about how to make these double thick strips that are really great for when you need a little bit of a sturdier piece, like for this stem here. And I have about a 2-inch piece that I stuck between 2 pins to get it to stand up straight. And then another inch or so here that I'm running between my fingers to make a little bit of an offshoot of that stem. It's going to hold a second leaf for me. I'm just going to attach that with a tiny bit of glue on the end. And if you have quilling tweezers, you can always use those as well when you're getting in these small spaces. Come on, buddy, you want to glue? There you go. All right, and that will set for a little bit. And I'm also going to just simply glue the end of the leaf to the end of the stem. Like I said earlier, if you want to use tacky glue, that will be fine. It will definitely make this process go a little bit quicker. But I had the time today, so I just used a tiny bit of all-purpose glue. Once that dries, you can remove it from the board. You can also make them in sets of 3 if you want. I have one of each here. And that's pretty much what it should look like. That's our first leaf on our quilling comb. For the next leaf here, I'm going to be using an olive green color from Craft Harbor. Same glue, same quilling comb, and my needle tool again. I think this might be my favorite leaf out of the 3. It's just a different way to make quilling shapes. I'm going to grab another long strip. These are even longer at about 22 or 24 inches. We're not going to use the entire thing for each leaf, but it's just easier to have a longer strip because depending on the size of your comb, your strips are going to be different sizes. And you can also make these leaves in different sizes using a similar technique. Started off with an anchor again by rolling it around my needle tool. And this time I'm going to be looping again, but starting at the bottom and continuously adding 1 loop above it. Normally when you do this technique, you do not have to glue every section, but for the technique that I'm going to show you after I take my quilling off of the quilling comb, this helps it stay together because we're going to be manipulating it a little bit. So like I said, I just wrap my strip around the bottom of my quilling comb, add a little bit of glue, and just go up by 1 tooth every time. And I'm going to be going up a total of 7 for this shape. So a little bit of glue. And it's also helpful if you make sure that everything's stacked really on top of each other. Because like I said, we are gluing every step. So as this glue starts drying, you're not going to be able to make sure that everything is nice and even. So I just gave that little squeeze on the bottom to make sure everything's lining up okay. After my 7th tooth, got back to the bottom, tore off any extra, and got that nice and glued on there. Now this in itself is a pretty common quilling technique, but we're going to be doing something slightly different from here on out. We're going to give it a big old pinch all the way down. Let's get that really smushed in there. And then what we're going to do is push it back on itself. So we got everything pinched real good there. I'm going to hold one end and just push, 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 push all of those layers open. Not creasing the sides, but I'm just kind of giving it that gentle shape. But when I pull it back out a little bit, we've got sort of a diamond situation going here. And that's it. Could not be easier, but it's definitely going to add a different dimension to your quilling. The bigger one here is made with 9 teeth instead of 7. You can glue some together to make just a different kind of spray for your leaves. You can put them on a stem as well if you wish, but just those angles that it makes just makes a completely different look. That'll be a really fun one to add to your flowers as well. And then for our last shape, we have our comb and our needle tool again, and we have a nice bright holiday green from Craft Harbor paper. These are the longer strips again. I'm going to grab one of those and another couple of turns on our needle tool to get us a nice starting point. This is completely optional. If you want to just start on your quilling comb, I know a lot of people do that, that's fine. I just find it easier to get it attached, and it's a little bit easier to hold on to when you have sort of that anchor there. I put my anchor on somewhere around the middle of my comb. I want to make sure I have at least 4 teeth on either side. I have the tail to the back, but then I bring it up and around the tooth right next to. And then I go back again, up and around, always bringing the tail back to the back. Instead of doing loops this time, I'm just going around each individual tooth and then bringing it to the back. The tail's always going to be behind. And then I'm going to keep going back and forth. This might be the trickiest one of the 3. I've done projects like this before, making flowers out of this style, but it's definitely easier to make loops like the first 2. Back to the back, loop around the next one, back to the back, loop around again, and then for the last one on this side, number 4, and the last one on that side, number 4, and then I have my tail to the back. So I have the 1 loop in the middle where I started my anchor, and then 4 on either side of that. Holding everything together, I'm going to flip it around and then move my tail out of the way for a second. I'm going to add some glue to the back and lay my strip across the glue. That's going to keep that part together a little bit because I want to take it off the tool very carefully, holding it by the side so it doesn't unravel. Fold it onto itself so that my loops are in the center. I'm going to glue this together just a tiny bit. The last 2 teeth are the only ones that really are going to meet each other. So they're the only 2 that need glue. And I will move my hands out of the way in a second here. You'll be able to see so far the shape you're looking for is that. A little bit of negative space in the middle, and I still have this really long tail. But I'm going to use that and wrap around just to give a little bit more weight to the outside. I'm going to wrap it around 4 times. So that was 1, 2. I'm not gluing each of these. It will stay together without any extra glue on there. And wrap. And then number 4. And then when I get to the point, I can go ahead and tear away any extra and then just add a little bit of glue to that. And that's it for that shape. There you go. Like I said before, you can use these for flower petals as well. Pretty much any of the shapes today that I'm showing with leaves you can use for flower petals very nicely. And then here's one where I made a little bit of a larger leaf in the center by adding more loops, and then 2 of the smaller ones on either side. And then I just put it on a stem. You can add more of these leaves as it goes down to make it sort of a fern-like shape. You can put some together. Totally up to you. You can use these greeneries however you like. They are definitely just a starting off point. And from there you can add whatever flowers you like. I have some cone flowers here. It's just the first ones I grabbed because I like the color with that bright green. I thought they went nicely together. You can mix and match. You can use multiple greens in your displays on your cards or however you're planning on using your quilling. I have some blue forget-me-nots here as well. Both the forget-me-nots and the cone flowers were made on a quilling comb, and I will link to those projects in the description box of this video as well. But mix and match. Like I said, I just grabbed these flowers just to play around with them. Those look kind of cute together. Completely up to you. I really just like showing different techniques on a quilling comb. It's definitely, I think, my favorite tool to use for quilling because it has so many possibilities and it's so small and inexpensive. It's just a great tool to have in your quilling toolbox. As always, don't forget to leave any questions you have in the comment section and I will answer them as soon as I can. I will leave all the tools and supplies I use, links to everything in the description box for this video, so you can find everything you need there, in addition to the other videos I mentioned for the other flowers and the on-edge video if you're interested in how to make the stems. Don't forget to like and subscribe though, so you can be around for my next video, and I will see you then. Thanks so much for watching. Bye-bye.